this opportunity to really get a foot in the industry. That felt really awesome and felt like...
Today I have a very near dear friend of mine, Mr. Nick Borges. I've been friends with Nick for a couple years now. He's another guy I've met in my journey in recovery and stuff like that. And to find a good man like him, a good friend, always gives me great advice. And to see what he's done with his life just in the short time I know him, he's an inspiration for me. So with that, I'd like to introduce my very good friend Nick. What's up, brother?
Thank you, Shawn. Appreciate it, man.
How's everything going?
Things are going well. I have to be honest, driving here today so tomorrow is 7 years for me.
Okay.
And driving here today, thinking about not only our relationship and how that's blossomed over the past year and a half.
Yeah.
9 months, I'd say, past 9 months in particular.
Yeah.
It's been pretty special, man. And also just to see you and all that you're doing and you have been doing for the Austin community, it's been pretty incredible, man. So it was a moment of gratitude and appreciation just driving over here and being able to sit down with you.
Thank you. I don't like how you just flipped that on me, but I appreciate it, dude, very much.
Yeah.
So dude, tell everybody a little bit about yourself. Where'd your story start?
Man, so I think, growing up, I have a fabulous family, wonderful mom and dad and sister, and I was born over in Saudi Arabia. We lived overseas.
I did not know that.
Really?
No shit.
Yeah, born in Saudi, lived over there for about a year, lived in Dubai for a little bit, and then relocated to the Houston area, and then moved back to Dubai in 6th grade. That year of my life was incredible. It was fun to be in a different country. Went to an American school, but walking distance from the beach and just in a whole different world. It was a lot of fun, super special. But yeah, man, moved back to Houston and ended up going to college in Missouri, University of Missouri. My sister was there, my dad went there, my mom went there, so it was kind of just in the family pool to go back to Missouri, but also wanted to get out of Texas for a little bit and do something different.
Right. What'd you think of those Midwest winters?
At times, I loved them.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't think I would live in the snow permanently.
No, they're cool to visit.
Yeah, they're cool to visit and leave when you want to leave.
About 2 days in, I'm good.
I'll never forget because it was a Dodge 1500 Ram truck with like 6-inch lift on it and 22-inch rims. And
you did?
I
no
did.
Shit.
I brought it up there for my vehicle for school, having zero idea how to drive in the snow.
Yeah.
And quickly learned that I guess it's a thing to put sandbags in the back of the truck to keep it down. And so I gave up on that and I stopped driving it and
really
got rid of it because it was just too much. But it was a good learning experience.
No shit.
Yeah. So yeah, man, I mean, typical college experience. I was in a fraternity that was quite interesting. We got kicked off campus my first semester, freshman year. But we all moved together all 45 of us in that pledge class moved together into an apartment complex and terrorized that apartment complex for a year. But it was a great time. I had made a lot of good friends that I still have today from that experience. I think, going to my own struggles a little bit with substances, I experienced some of it before that and, smoking weed on a daily basis and different stuff like that. But I think by my junior year in college, I kind of started to realize that there was something different and I needed some kind of substance every single day to feel okay or to socialize, be around people and feel capable in doing those things. To this day, I don't really know how I made it through college and graduated. I think I chose finance as a degree because at the time it wasn't as difficult for me, and so I could spend more time partying and doing that stuff. But looking back as a kid, I always wanted to my initial dream, I think, was a pediatrician.
Oh, really?
Or some kind of medical field.
Mm-hmm.
In my mind, I had this desire to help people. I just had no idea in what way. But I went the route of finance because it was easier and softer, and
right.
I could party more.
Yeah.
So fast forward, I moved back to Houston when I graduated, worked in corporate finance for 4 or 5 years and lived in the Houston area. And when I moved back home to Houston, I kind of reconnected with some old buddies that I went to high school with, and kind of got back into the scene of what I was kind of looking to leave behind by going to school in Missouri to begin with. And things just got worse and worse and worse. And I don't think I'll ever forget, like, the first time with Roxy's and Oxys and all that stuff being involved in my story in my life. The first time I had tried it while partying, I think it was like 2012 when I moved back home and graduated, and having that feeling of like, this is it. This is what I've been missing. This is giving me the ability to be the person that I've always thought I wanted to be, and I can be open and engage with people, not worry about what they're thinking about me, and just be loose and have fun.
Yeah.
And so that same feeling was something I was seeking for probably the next 5 or 6 years. And, I think to this day, I feel for my parents deeply. I think they saw what was going on and they were concerned for sure. They just had no idea what to do about it.
Right.
So I tried like outpatient programs, and I had a good buddy that I lived with, a really good buddy that I'm still very close with today. And I would come home from work and he would flush my pills, and this would happen like 2 or 3 times a week. And he finally called my parents over and had a little mini intervention at the kitchen table, and basically said he's not willing to stand by and watch this happen anymore. And at that point, I decided to move back in with my parents, thinking that would fix everything. It only made things worse. And I eventually convinced them and myself that I was good again, and got a apartment with another good buddy that I met in high school, and he was kind of doing the same thing. And we decided to live with each other to, in a way, co-sign each other's bullshit, knowing that we were
thinking you're going to support each other through it, and then you just
be the best fit for each other.
Right.
Yeah. Sure. And so that happened for maybe 6 or 9 months, and again had this revelation that it was the living situation that was the problem. It was him that was the problem. And still,
how long did it take when you guys moved in for y'all both to fall off?
I don't think we ever.
Oh, you guys fell off.
Yeah, I don't think we ever really were on a good path before we made the decision to move with each other. So I decided to move out, kind of leave him high and dry, and to this day still feel terrible about that. And sadly enough, he overdosed and died 4 months ago. And he was one of the amends that I knew I needed to make, and had made efforts to try and get that done, but was not able to before he passed away. So that was a tough funeral to go to for sure.
Yeah.
But I went back to my parents after that and kind of did it all over again. And I got fired from, I was working for Cisco at the time as a treasury analyst, and I would go through this rotation of either running out of money or just running out of pills and get really sick and calling into work 2 or 3 days at a time. And I had done it so many times that they finally just fired me and said, we can't do this anymore. So at that point, I tried to get into the restaurant scene and find my way there, and it just made matters worse. And
there was a reason. There's a reason everywhere I ever lived, the first thing I would do is go get a waiter job.
Yeah. I was convinced that I was going to learn all of the front of the house and back of the house duties and then open up my own restaurant.
Right.
And so I convinced this manager of a restaurant in Houston to take a risk on me, and he did. And I worked there for 3 months, and then just couldn't make the bills, couldn't pay for my car, couldn't pay for an apartment, and finally used my last paycheck there to get a mixture of as many as I could, like Roxy, Dilaudid, and Opanas, and called my parents and said, this is what's going on. I know I need help, and booked it down to Wimberley, and got there, and we quickly figured out a plan to get into treatment after that. And there's a treatment center that's on the way to my parents' house. You have to pass it to go to. And so in the back of my mind, I always told myself, if it gets bad enough, that's where I'll go. So I went there for 30 days and got out and started in Austin for a little while and did fairly well for a bit. I think in my mind, I was clear on the idea that I could no longer use opiates and have a successful life. Still was not clear on weed, THC, and alcohol. I still thought that could be a part of my story, be successful. And I think probably 3 or 4 weeks out, I relapsed on Adderall. And I oddly enough, I was working at Odd Duck, a restaurant in Austin during that time. And in the beginning, it was going fairly well. It quickly turned into I needed something to keep the energy up and the ability to go 12 hours in a shift and be good at my job.
Right.
And so started drinking Kratom, and I actually went and facilitated a retreat, Braveheart, high on Kratom. It was the most miserable thing I think I've done.
Just guilt?
Yeah, super guilt. And also just, being a part of watching other people put effort into trying to get better. You want nothing to do with that when you're in that spot. So had a buddy from college come pick me up and went to his house, and kind of crashed there for about a week because I got kicked out of sober living. And to this day, I really don't know what it was, other than this strong desire to not feel what I was feeling, the disappointment in myself, the disappointment I would assume my parents or family were feeling, knowing that I'd relapse again. And picked up the phone and just called the treatment center to go back, and went back for a little tune-up, and I've been sober since then, September 2nd, 2016. So,
let's go.
Yeah.
Let's go.
Something clicked in that week, being essentially homeless, crowd surfing on my buddy's couch, and taking all of his Adderall and Xanax and everything. And he would go to work, and I would stay on the couch and tell him I'd clean his apartment for living on his couch. And it was something that finally I was like, I don't want to feel this way anymore. I don't want to do this anymore. I know there's somewhat of a solution out there, and I was getting close to it, but you got to figure out what the rest is. So.
Right. What do you think? So, and I'm sure you'll go into it eventually, but you're a therapist? What's the proper term?
I'm a licensed master in social work, so a social worker.
Okay.
But I have my LCDC as well.
What do you think? Why do you think we as addicts, or we as people, why do you think we have different? Everybody has a different rock bottom, right? That sounds like that was your like rock bottom moment where you were enough is enough. I went to prison. It still wasn't my rock bottom yet. It took me going to prison, and then my mother to not pick up the phone for that to be my rock bottom moment. When the last person in the world, your mother won't pick up the phone anymore. It's like, damn, I fucked my shit up bad. What do you think that is? Why does that differ so much with different people?
It's a good question. I found myself asking that same question with the guy I'm working with currently that's been in and out of this for 15 years or so. And we've been kind of exploring that together. But I think at the core for me, it's the internal pain, whatever that is. Whatever is driving that need to escape that in unhealthy ways with drugs or alcohol or anything else for that matter. A willingness to consider for yourself that it is possible to address that pain without drugs and alcohol. Just a simple willingness alone. And I think for a lot of people, it takes a long time to get there, to understand that it is possible to sit in this for a little while, work on it without relying on drugs and alcohol to do so.
Right.
So yeah, I think that window of willingness, once that starts, it can build and build and build, but there's got to be an initial willingness and feeling like there is something else out there that is capable of helping me through this pain.
Right. I'm pretty sure we're pretty aligned with my view on this, but I know me as coaching people in recovery for these past couple of years, my one thing that drove me nuts and that I see all the time now is that, if somebody doesn't ever hit that rock bottom, how are they ever going to learn? How are they ever going to learn that they can't continue to do this? And so oftentimes you see the mother or fatherly instinct to want to protect and or take care of their kids all the time. And the way I describe it, it's like, you're never going to hit rock bottom if mom and dad don't ever let you scratch the surface. If you've been arrested 5 times and you've never even made it to the back of the county jail because you're bailed out by the time you get to that holding cell, like, maybe it takes you a couple nights to go back there and see what's really going on, or maybe it takes a prison sentence or something like that. And so it was just always frustrated where it's like, this is a good person. They don't even see what's going on, but it's like, dude, I know this is easier for you to always go to mom and dad, but they're bailing you out, and you're never going to be able to learn your lesson.
Yeah. I think that's why I find there's a lot of passion for me in like the family work, the system work in general, because you can work on the individual night and day in their own set of problems and core beliefs or whatever that is. But when there's other people involved in that person's system that is not willing to do that work, it's going to keep the entire thing sick. So, yeah, I think addressing everybody within that family or the system is one that's super important. And for me, honestly, I was talking to a guy recently that we've taken a couple younger guys, 18-year-olds in the treatment center that I work for. And I've always had respect for people that do adolescent work or work with the younger populations. But for me, it's increased even more because it's so difficult. Like you do all this fantastic work with the individual, the adolescent, but what they're returning to or what they're a part of needs just as much, if not more, work to keep everybody well.
Right. Dude, speaking of that, I remember one of the things, early recovery, I started mentoring at-risk youth. And so I was just exploring any option I had in life to use my experience to help others. And it was very rewarding doing it for it. So I would do a little run group, and I'd go pick these kids up and take them out on the trail and take them for a run and kind of get them going. And this was just a very valuable lesson for me in understanding people. There's one kid, and he really gravitated towards it. He wanted to run all the time and all that. And so he would, oftentimes we get back, he wouldn't ever ride home. And so I'd give him a ride home. And the one day I took him home, and he went up and knocked on his door, and I'd wait to make sure he got inside. And there'd be multiple cars in the driveway, and he'd knock, and he'd knock. And it took like 30, 40 minutes before anybody, and it's midday after school. And someone finally came down and opened up the door. So I started kind of getting a bigger picture of like what his home life was like. And then come to find out, he would go home and he would have to babysit his kids. It seemed, not sure what was going on with mom and the boyfriend, but it seemed like they were probably in, active addiction or something like that. And I remember he got a job at the airport fresh out of school. And so I would get, he would always want to run races with me. So anytime I would get like a free bib to run a race, I'd let him know, I'd pick him up, and I'd take him on the race because he's the one that got it. You know what I mean? It's that one kid that made it worth me going there on my Tuesday and Thursday afternoon because I knew he was excited for it. And so I remember him telling me on the phone he's working 50 hours a week. And like for an 18-year-old kid, that's quite a bit, And so I got a bib race for him, and I picked him up the one time, and he had been telling me how he had to Uber. Mom or the boyfriend wouldn't take him to work, so he had to Uber back and forth to work. And then he's like, yeah, my mom gave me $20 so I can eat with you after the race. And I was like, dude, what do you mean she gave you money? You said you're working 50 hours a week. And he's like, oh yeah, I have to give my paychecks to my mom. And so he was never seeing any of that money. She's not working and stuff like that. And it just, that's a different, I had a great family growing up. My dad left when I was 2. I was still in communication with him. So there were some years where I didn't have that male guidance. Was blessed to have my stepdad come into my life. But it just painted this picture for me where it's like, man, I didn't understand the importance of how you grow up and the things you go through and who you end up becoming. Mm-hmm. And so, we work with people every day where it's like, man, like he's 40, but he's still a big kid. He's still going to mom and dad for everything and stuff like that. And it's a lot of it's not his fault. Mm-hmm. I don't even know if it's mom and dad's fault either, because they don't know. That's what they're programmed to do. Yeah. And so it's like, it's cool to be my age now and understand why people are the way they are sometimes, or why they have the struggles that they do.
Yeah, I think it's one of the most heartbreaking, but also like fascinating parts of like the human experience, mm-hmm. I guess. And I think a lot of people, and I'm not saying by any means that I'm good at it. I would like to believe in some ways you're good, decent at it.
You're good at your
job. I don't think a lot of people take the time to really go there and consider that, like what all each individual that you cross path with on a daily basis are, like what are those core beliefs or core messages that they experience due to their experience as a younger person, mm-hmm. Or just in general. And I think when we get curious about those experiences with other people, it opens up the door for many opportunities, really, really cool opportunities. But that's a part that fascinates me the most about doing this kind of work, is just learning how somebody has created this certain picture of themselves in their own mind and how it affects their daily life.
Right. Through your story of addiction and finding recovery and stuff like that, you originally got sober with the 12 steps. Mm-hmm. So obviously, belief in a higher power and everything that comes with that. So then you get the educational aspect of working with people in therapeutic environment and stuff like that. Has that shifted how you look at recovery or anything like that? Because this is just a spiritual program, and then this is like I don't know how you would describe it, but like your degree and stuff like that, looking at stuff through clinical lenses. Mm-hmm. Does that clash at all? Like the kind of ideologies?
No, I think for me there is a really nice kind of marriage of the two. And I would say, my recovery with the 12 steps in AA looks a little different these days. Like, it's not as rigorous. There's components of it that I've found that other parts of recovery give me more than what I was initially looking for in the 12-step program.
Right.
I do think, it's interesting to me. In the big book, it states pretty clearly, like, seek outside services when necessary and when needed. Mm-hmm. And so for me, it's telling us that these 12 steps are the foundation to get well, but it's not all of your answers. And it never will be all of your answers. Mm-hmm. So keep seeking what those answers are for you. I think there are ways for sure to intertwine the two. And I do believe that the 12 steps as is a pretty awesome blueprint of just living a life that's meaningful and worth living. Yeah. So I think if you can find a way to bring that into any kind of clinical work or therapeutic work, it's always a win.
Right. It's tough in the recovery community because there's different schools of thought on stuff. And, there's people that will, I'm not saying they're doing it on purpose, but they'll have you believe that like this book is the only way. But then you just stated a passage out of there that says to seek outside help and stuff like that. And so I remember arriving like myself where it's just like the understanding of like I finally found what works for me. You know what I mean? And it's a little bit of everything. And it's hard to get somebody in treatment. I would never be like, hey man, don't worry, you're gonna find what works for you eventually, hopefully. But I think it all comes out to that healthy balance. It's like, all right, this is my foundation. You know, I got my foundation in 12 steps, belief in a higher power, and then you get a couple years in, and a lot of people will start gravitating towards something like therapy or meditation or fitness or something like that to continue to build on it. And that's why I enjoy what I do with training people and using fitness within recovery. You know, you still have all that energy you put into addiction every day. Once you get sober, what are we going to do with it? Let's do something healthy.
Yep.
And so it's cool to hear the other sides of it from like a therapeutic view and stuff like that.
And I think too, like what you said, as far as continuing to build upon it, I think that's what long-term recovery is. And what those that are successful in long-term recovery achieve is never stopping to seek for other opportunities to grow. And for me, it's like if you corner yourself into this one solution, you're not open to other avenues or other opportunities. And it also for me is like this fear-driven piece of recovery is, I think, kind of horseshit, honestly, because people come into this process terrified already. Yeah. And so what is more fear going to do for somebody that's already terrified? Like, right. It doesn't make sense to me. But yeah, I think for me too, like the other side of that, like there's components that I struggle with. Like if we want to go into talking about like psychedelics or like ketamine treatment or different stuff like that, I know there's benefits to it 100%, but there's also this part of me that's like, how does that work for somebody that's struggled with substances their entire life? And so for me, it's a constant battle too of my own biases and like going back to that place of knowing that everybody's recovery looks different. Right. Who am I to say this doesn't work for this person or this person? Like, I think a constant reminder of open-mindedness and like whatever works for you, like right on, keep doing it.
Right. Yeah. It's funny. That's like a hot topic now with psychedelics, and you know, because you see studies where it's having benefits with addicts, having benefits with veterans, people with PTSD, first responders, and then you know there's the school where we came from where it's like complete abstinence, nothing like that. You know, understanding people that are coming fresh out of treatment, they're still looking to feel something, and so you know we see it where they're like, I need ketamine treatments, I need this, I need to be on testosterone, I need to be on something like that. But I think once you've been a couple years down the road and you're at a good place when you're, you know, mentally, physically, spiritually, life is good, life is steady, and you know that's stuff that you think could enhance your life or something like that. Like, you know, I always go back to the weed for me. Weed was I never had anything, I believe I've said it before, but I never had anything in my head. There was no switch when I started shooting up or anything like that, like where this is bad. You know, I was just shooting up. It was just normal to me as it is for regular people to brush their teeth. And it was only when I would smoke, weed never got me where I wanted to be, so I like skipped over it on the drug scale. Smoked here and there, like, but never went and bought weed or anything like that. But only when I would smoke weed would I then think in a rational mind where it's like, what the fuck am I doing? I'm sticking needles in my body. Oh my God. And like, it would finally hit me because of that, you know, introspective aspect to weed. And so it's like, you know, is weed a drug? It's the only thing that made me think with a rational mind. That's why I chose not to do it. I never felt guilty about shooting up before.
It's funny you say that because like weed for me was a daily thing from junior year in high school until 2016 when I got sober. And like the last 5 years of that, every time I would smoke, I would get severe panic attacks, it would feel like almost. And I would assume maybe part of that is, again, like that conscious part of my mind jumping in and saying like, what you're doing here is probably not good for you. Right. Like all the other things. Yeah. And I never thought of it that way. Yeah. So
I don't know. It's tough, man. Like it's legal in all these other states and stuff like that. Like I don't need it. You know what I mean? So I don't do it.
But I think that the thing for me is with any of it is if you can honestly sit back and ask yourself, like, is this adding value to my life or robbing me of experience of some kind?
Yeah.
And the answer to that is it's not robbing me of anything, then I think that's enough right there.
Right. Boy, it sure made this movie really good. It sure makes this album sound fucking fire. That's funny. So what would you say in your entire journey through addiction? What do you think is the most valuable lesson you've learned?
I think there's a couple. I think the first one that comes to mind is the value of just showing up.
Yeah.
Period. No matter what. Regardless of how I feel or regardless of not wanting to or whatever's going through my mind, like just show up. And in doing that alone, my experience has shown me that if I just decide to show up no matter what, good things always happen.
Yep.
Maybe not in the moment, but eventually they definitely do.
You at least feel better about yourself for doing something you didn't want to do.
Yeah. And I think when I do that, I never leave the experience regretting it.
Right.
Never. Like it's always like, damn, that felt good. I'm glad I did that.
Yeah.
So that moment of like choosing to do something you don't want to do, and then the aftermath and the experience that you felt in doing that, I think is something that's hard to replace.
Right.
That, and then I do feel like, so coming up on 7 years, I would say a majority of those 7 years, it's gotten much better now, but for most of those 7 years, I've had this experience of feeling like I needed to prove myself to myself and others around me, because for so long I did not.
We're literally just talking about that.
Yeah.
Yeah, go ahead. Keep going, I'm sorry.
For so long, like I wasn't a man of my word. I wasn't living in integrity. I was being dishonest. I was not showing up for people. So there's this overwhelming feeling like with everything I do, I need to prove that I'm worthy and that I can do these things. And, I think more so the past probably 3 years, 4 years or so, I've had to really kind of work on keeping that side of me in check. There's still a drive to prove myself, but like also feeling confident in the fact that I do belong in this work.
Mm-hmm.
I am skilled in this work. I do have something to offer, because if I'm consistently in this mindset of I need to prove, like I'm not able to stop and really appreciate what is going on. So yeah,
that's deep right there. That's deep, because that's something that's going on. Jason and I were literally just talking about that, and we had the owner of this place, Matt, on the podcast, and I'm always interested to hear everybody's feedback, because like, number one, I always want to be, whatever I'm doing, I want to be the best me I can at it. I can always get better. It can improve in some way. It doesn't matter. The gym, podcast, life, marriage, anything like that. I just want to get better. And I was telling Jason that it's like a chip on my shoulder. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? Where I have something to prove everything I do. And there's still like I said, my dad moved away when I was 2. Maybe that's what it comes from, where it's like I'm constantly, I want to make people proud. Matt and JR blessed me with the opportunity to do this podcast. I want it to be the best fucking podcast could be, so that, so they're proud that they made that decision. I want Jason and Ilse, the people that work on the podcast, I want them to be proud to come here and be a part of it and stuff like that. And so I can see where you're saying, like, I guess I don't feel like I need to prove myself, but it's just like, I think I'm super competitive, and whatever I do, I just want to be the best me I can be at it.
Yeah. Yeah, and maybe it's more than like, because I think you're right, and I experience that too. Like, I guess I'm competitive. I want to be the best at what I'm doing, and I want to drive to be more skilled, more equipped, and all that different stuff. I think for me, it's been more of working on slowing down enough to recognize that others are appreciative of me, proud of me, do value what I do without me feeling this constant need to do so.
Right.
Like I am enough as is.
Right.
I don't want to get stuck in this mindset that like I have to keep on progressing in order for people to acknowledge me or want to be around me or love me or whatever it is.
Right.
Because that's going to be there regardless. Certainly I have to act accordingly and be respectful and all that stuff.
Right.
But I think whenever I get lost in that and caught up in this need to prove myself, I lose touch, and I'm almost incapable of like deeply connecting with the people around me, like my girlfriend, my parents, my sister, my coworkers, friends. Like it's not as possible. So.
Right. No, I think we're saying something similar and a little bit of something different. Like, I think the point where you're saying was like, it sounds like you finally became okay with being you. Mm-hmm. You're happy with you. You're content with you. You know, even with running and some of the things I started to accomplish, I still didn't have that. Oddly enough, the gym taught me that. You know, I always reference a relationship that I was in where, it ended abruptly and I turned internal. You know, what's wrong with me? What did I do? What didn't I do good enough? All these things, and there was no glaring thing that I could point at. It fucked with me for quite a while. But luckily that amount of heartbreak is what pushed me to go into the gym. And, running got my mental health and my mindset and my routine and discipline back in order where it needed to be. It got me back to being the person that I was supposed to be. But the confidence didn't come until I started showing up to the gym every day and started eating better and started doing all these things. And it was like, once I started to see the work I put in start to have those, so many benefits that you get it, that's where I grew the confidence then to start wanting to, share my story, speak in front of people, where I could walk into a room with my head held high. You know what I mean? As, almost as a badge of honor in a way internally to me.
Yeah.
But the gym is what got me to that point where it's like, now I look back at that old relationship and my insecurities, and it's like, nobody's going to be able to define me. Mm-hmm. I'm not going to find my worth in a relationship, a friendship, a girl, a job, anything like that. No matter what, I'm going to be okay because I'm good with being me now.
Yeah. Yeah.
Right? So do you have a moment that you would say a moment of redemption? So you had your rock bottom moment where you decided, on the couch, I can't live like this anymore. Do you have a moment of redemption where you kind of took a look around and realized like, oh shit, I fucking made it?
There's probably a couple, but the one that I go to, so I eventually got a job working as a sous chef at a treatment center. This was in probably early 2017, after I'd been working at the YMCA, doing some odd-end jobs for a little while, and really feeling like, knowing that I didn't want to go back into finance, but having no idea what I wanted to do, and really having some doubt around like how I was going to get somewhere different, making minimum wage, trying like, focusing on my recovery. But there was some strong moments of like doubt of like, is this really going to work out? Like,
right.
Are we going to get somewhere with this?
Mm-hmm.
But I ended up getting a job at a treatment center as a sous chef, and did that for 8-9 months. And within that job kind of found this desire to work in that space, in the treatment space in some way that was outside of the kitchen. And had gotten an opportunity from another local company of managing sober livings, and thought about it and was like, this is a cool step. I should go after this. And went to my boss at the time and told him about it, and was like, I'm putting my 2 weeks in. I want to do something in this industry. I want to make something of myself in this industry. And that was a Friday, and I came back on Monday, and he called me to his office, and we were talking, and he was like, so what do you want to do with this work? And kind of went into more detail about it. And he threw out to me, he was like, well, what about being the alumni coordinator here? What about building this program for us? And in that moment, it felt for me super special that not only was this guy and this company wanted to take a chance on me and give me this opportunity to build a whole program essentially for their company. But, this opportunity to really get a foot in the industry. But I think that moment itself of somebody else sees something in me that I don't quite see yet.
Right.
And like, let's roll with this until I can experience it myself. But that felt really awesome and felt like I was starting the journey of figuring out more so what I was going to be doing as far as a career. So it was a special moment.
Right. That's such a good way to put it. My friend Penny, she's the one that saw something in me. And I just remember personally that feeling, it's so foreign for anybody to be proud of us or see something in us or anything like that. And the moment it happens, after it hasn't happened for 5, 10, 20 years, whatever it is, it's like, and it gives you that hope you haven't had in such a long time.
I think that piece right there too is like, you were sharing the story earlier about the young guy that you were running with and all that you did with him and seeing something in him and like helping and supporting him. And I think our own experiences and others seeing in us what we don't see yet, and that profound feeling that you get from that, wanting to extend that to other people and get them to that same place of like, I know you don't see this yet, but like this, you're going to be great at this, or like I can feel this for you. Like watching that journey kind of unfold is a pretty special one.
Yeah, it's wild.
Yeah.
Someone that's listening to this right now and they identify with your story, they have a story similar, something you said really hit them, what would be and they're still suffering right now, what would be your advice to them?
Starting with just ask for help.
Yeah.
Ask for help and allow yourself to take the burden off of your shoulders thinking that you have to do this alone.
Right.
Because I think that piece alone of going through whatever experience that you are, isolating yourself and feeling like others might not understand, or you're not worthy of the help, or nobody can help you. Just simply picking up the phone, raising your hand, or whatever you need to do to say I need help is a really courageous first step, and it's one that's necessary. So,
do you remember what it felt? Do you remember what it felt like when the charade was finally over? You admitted you had a problem, you had asked for help, and it's like,
yeah.
Like I've talked to so many people. I never had this, but where they finally get locked up and they like finally just breathe because they know it's all over. That was definitely not my feeling when I got locked up, but I had that feeling when my family finally knew, like they knew what it was, and I was just like, oh, thank God, I don't know. It's fucking exhausting.
Yeah, it is. Yeah, have to pretend like everything's okay, or hold secrets, or
It's the one, we use our experience every day to help others, and it's a constant reminder, of where we were, seeing the decisions that some people make or their stances on things, and it's just like, I just want to shake you right now. Yeah. What are you doing? It's frustrating, but it's a constant reminder for me every day of like, that's one of the messages I tell people, like when they're in treatment or they're in sober living. It's like, hey, this might not be ideal for you. Obviously, it's not the best living arrangement for you. You're living with a bunch of other guys, a bunch of other women, or whatever it is. But if you're in there and you're not using these other people as learning lessons, watching them make mistakes, if you then make the same mistake, that's on you now. Like you have a unique opportunity now, instead of you just trying to do this thing, to watch 12 other people try to do this thing too. And you could literally sit back and be like, oh, he's fucking up, he's fucking up, he's fucking up. That dude's handling his shit. He looks like he's going to make it. Maybe I should go hang out with him. You know what I mean? And that was my biggest lesson, was the people I chose to surround myself with.
Absolutely.
And it's a choice.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Letting people be around you.
Yeah. And it's still, like today, I could probably name something in the past week But like me choosing to do things, even though people in my life that I fully trust and believe in, and one in my life are telling me, you probably shouldn't do that.
Right.
Or you should do this a little differently.
Right.
But still doing it and having a learning experience with it and be like, all right, well, I know this now. So when I hear this again from somebody else, I need to listen.
Right. For sure. What, so I got some fun questions for you.
Yeah.
You down?
Absolutely.
They're meant to be rapid fire. Just the first thing that comes to your mind.
Mm-hmm.
Had to make sure I had to throw a Texans one in there for you. So when you were growing up, who were your inspirations?
Hakeem Olajuwon.
Right. Was it really?
Yeah.
Hakeem the Dream?
Yeah. I got a jersey from him. I think it was my 8-year-old Christmas. And I still have that jersey.
Really?
Yeah.
So I ask this a lot. I love hearing who people's inspirations are, just because it tells you so much about them. And whenever I ask the question, I'll be like, who are your inspirations? Everybody always gives me like, oh my dad. And I'm sure that's true.
Absolutely.
But if you're gonna try to tell me you didn't have posters on your wall or like
and
somebody where you're pulling inspirations from,
there's a piece of that too. Is like he was also my dad's favorite player. It was back in the early '90s when they won back-to-back titles, and he would go watch them a lot, and we bonded over that. And I think also watching him play, he was very silent, but obviously very skilled.
Yeah.
He just got things done, and took over the basketball court, but did it in a very quiet way.
Yeah.
Which was really cool to watch, and I respect it a lot.
Dude, I remember back when the Lakers were, or not the Lakers, the Rockets were, not to be fucked with.
Yeah.
Barkley, Anthony Mason.
Yeah. Sam Cassell. Yeah.
This is all before Stevie Franchise came along.
Yeah.
That was a good time in basketball. All right, next one. Do you have anybody else besides Hakeem?
I mean, my dad for sure.
Okay.
I don't want it to be cliche, but my dad grew up in Missouri. It was a very poor family and worked his ass off to put himself through school. And the way that he is his entire life taken risks to provide more for his family and himself is pretty admirable. Like he taking the risk of moving his family to Saudi Arabia to have a kid in Saudi Arabia. I think he operates in a very different way that I still to this day am in awe of. Mm-hmm. And interesting enough, like he managed a lot of people throughout his career, and I don't know, I always knew that he did that kind of work. It wasn't that I didn't believe him. I think there was a part of me that, being a stubborn son, like just didn't want to hear it at times, or felt like he didn't know what he was talking about at times. But since moving into this COO role at Heartwood, I've been leaning on him heavily for advice and managing people, and it's opened up this new place in our relationship to connect at a deeper level and allow him in to share his experience with me, and it's been pretty special.
Right. That's awesome.
Yeah.
Dude, my real father played a very important part in my life. We didn't live in the same state, but he taught me how to love. He grew up very poor, and so it wasn't about gifts or anything like that. It was kisses and hugs, and
Mm-hmm.
you know what I mean, like that love and affection.
Yeah.
So that's what I got from him, and then from my stepdad, dude. I talk about it in the documentary. A step parent is a thankless job, and so to put up with my badass like he did, and I watched this dude work in the steel mill nearly all my whole adolescence. Switching turns every week. It'd be day turn, afternoon turn, midnight turn. He'd only get 3-4 hours of sleep on midnight turn, wake up with big bags under his eyes. Never complained, didn't say a word. Would come to my basketball games, would come to my baseball games and stuff like that. Taught me how to throw a football. Like a lot of that fatherly stuff I would have probably missed out on, but I learned two very important, different but important aspects from them both.
Yeah, I think, and my he's like 6'6", and he's a big guy. But
Is he?
Yeah.
What happened?
That's a good question. I still have some resentment around that. But he's also a very affectionate man, and
Right.
and that piece, I will always remember. Like, even like in high school and having parties, like people would always be like, "Why does your dad always want to hug me?" It's like, he's just an affectionate dude. But learning that from him, I think is I'm grateful for that too, because doing the work that I do, 9 times out of 10, you're working with a guy and they're talking about how they have no idea how to love or be affectionate with anybody, because they were never taught that or provided that experience. So it's I'm grateful for that for sure.
Right, for sure. Good shit. Can only pick one for the rest of your life: gym or run?
Run.
Run? Really?
Yeah.
Really?
Mm-hmm.
That's why you don't have to show up to the gym anymore.
So are you saying like I could physically run the rest of my life?
You can only do one or the other activity.
Yeah, but like if I get to 80, am I still capable?
You break down whenever you break down.
Oh, okay.
On either or.
Okay. Either or. So yeah, still run.
Run?
Yeah.
Okay. Probably best for your mental health too.
I mean, I think it's the only way that I still feel like I can completely clear my head.
Yeah, me too. Dude, I've tried meditation. Like, I've tried to do all that. Nothing does it for me like running does. If I have a serious problem, if I'm feeling an extreme way about something, I am always much more level-headed to have conversations and make decisions after I've run, for sure.
Yeah.
Absolutely. So, big Houston Texans fan you are.
Yep.
Question I have for you for the Texans: over under? Are they going 8-8 this year?
Over.
Over?
Mm-hmm.
Oh, really?
Mm-hmm.
Rookie quarterback?
Over.
No shit.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
What makes you say that?
I'm a believer first and foremost.
Let's go. Ride or die, no matter what.
I also think that Jacksonville is going to be strong, but I'm not convinced that Anthony Richardson can do what he needs to do to help the Colts, and so we're playing them twice a year. I don't know. I think our schedule isn't terrible, but we'll see how they play Baltimore next Sunday.
All right. Playoffs?
Not this first year.
Okay.
I'll go next year playoffs.
That'd be wild if they did.
Yeah. I wouldn't be shocked. I'll just say that. D'Amico Ryans can, I think, turn the ship if anybody can.
Okay. I'm afraid to speak about the Steelers publicly because I don't want to. I got my hopes are so high. Some of these you had kind of already answered, but what would you say? What would you go back and tell your younger self if you were to give him advice?
I think going off of what I said with my dad earlier, don't be afraid to take risks.
Okay.
Take as many risks as you can. And spend as much time as you can with your parents because you don't know how long you're going to have them.
Yeah, that's huge. Absolutely huge. It's tough when they live in another state and stuff like that, but you see when your grandparents get older or something like that, and you hear some of the things they say, and you know what I mean. We get lost in busy life every day to day. You know what I mean? But to really focus in on that stuff and for it to be prevalent in your mind, because nobody knows when God's going to take you.
Yeah,
for sure. What who would you say is your favorite athlete of all time, aside from Hakeem Olajuwon, any sport?
Oof. This might be controversial, but Michael Vick is up there.
Really?
Yeah.
I think he's in the clear now.
Is he good now?
He's good. I forgive him.
Yeah, I will never forget watching him on TV younger and just watching him destroy defenses and making it look easy.
Right.
So I would say him, and then there's something about Michael Phelps too that I really appreciate.
I like to smoke weed.
Well,
you're a big weed guy. Look what he can do on weed. See, that's what I'm saying. This is what I'm saying. No, I'm kidding. Okay. No, dude, what he's Michael Phelps is legit.
Yeah.
I didn't know you were into him like that.
Well, I think
just what he's accomplished.
What he's accomplished, and also over the past few years, how vocal he has been about his depression, his struggles, and his willingness to be open about it in the way he has and use that platform for good. I think, especially in what he's done in the swimming world and how much power his voice has, I think is pretty admirable.
Right. Yeah, dude, I was just talking on another podcast we did about, like, it's not about your story, it's about what you do with it, right? And so I never thought that my life would be comprised of using this shitty story that I have of all this shitty stuff I did, hurting people and family and stuff like that, and actually be able to use it to help people. And so, like, that's the main message I try to get to people that we work with every day, or anybody that I talk to that I run into. It's like, if you're lucky enough to get on the other side of this and you don't go back and use that to help people, then what the fuck was it all for?
Yeah.
You're just wasting it. For sure. What is your favorite movie?
I only get one.
I mean, how many you
got?
Top three. First three.
Top three. Gangs of New York.
You know that most of that's true?
Yeah.
Except Leonardo DiCaprio, most of those people were all actual people.
Really? I didn't know that. I knew it was pretty
The Butcher,
factual.
Hellcat Molly, like, all those people were legit gangsters.
I believe it.
Go ahead, what were you going to say?
So Gangs of New York. I'm going to out myself on this one a little bit. Sweet Home Alabama has always been a top movie for me.
With
Reese Witherspoon.
Really?
Yeah.
What? Why?
I don't know exactly why. There's something about, like, the small town feel of the movie and, like, the redemption story and the romance in it. I'm a romantic guy, so there's parts of it that I like. Okay. Yeah.
Way to be open and vulnerable.
Yeah, sure.
All right. What's your third? You better come with some fucking gangster shit now.
He Got Game.
Oh.
That's a big one up there.
Underrated basketball movie.
It's fantastic.
Denzel. We were just talking about Denzel last episode too. What would you say is what's your fight song? So, like, you're walking out tonight to work to fight for the title. What song are you coming out to?
Honestly, anything Meek Mill's.
Okay.
I usually just listen to his music in the gym.
Really?
Yeah.
That's your get up and go music?
Yeah. Hands down.
Solid pick. Favorite shoe of all time?
Favorite shoe of all time?
First time I've asked this.
How far back can I go?
As far as you want.
Do you remember the pumps?
Yeah.
I would say
the original black and white ones with the orange pump?
Yeah.
They're releasing. They haven't released the black ones that I've seen, but they're re-releasing them.
Yeah.
They're just so fucking high.
Yeah, they are.
They're so high.
But there's something about them. Obviously, they don't help you jump any higher, but there's something about them when you put them on, you feel like you can.
Yeah. I had a pair.
Yeah.
They have some dope.
Didn't help that game much though.
Bro, we still have never hooped after all this time.
I know. We're just building up the suspense around and the anticipation.
I mean, you and your buddies smack these guys around that are fucking a week off the couch at treatment.
They ask for it.
I know. We won't say his name, but the one gentleman that just left, he was talking smack. I'm like, bro, I see your form out there. You better keep working. You ain't got nothing for me. Favorite actor or actress?
So, Jessica Biel, actress. She was my first childhood crush.
So that was gonna be one of my questions, but I didn't want to. It was gonna be childhood crush, so I'm glad you went there.
Jessica Biel for sure.
Okay.
And I mean Denzel.
Denzel.
Yeah.
Can't go wrong with Denzel. Yeah. And your favorite hooper of all time. Now I'm saying favorite hooper, not favorite basketball player, but a fucking hooper. I like that you're really putting good thought into this.
Nate Robinson's up there for me. I like me some Nate Robinson.
Here's a hooper.
And then Kobe.
Can't ever go wrong with Kobe.
Yeah.
Jordan or LeBron?
Jordan all day.
Let's fucking go.
All day.
Let's go. Have you watched, do you watch Winning Time?
Watch what?
Winning Time? It's on HBO Max.
I've seen it. Yeah.
Fucking really good. I don't know if HBO wants to do if you guys, I'll keep plugging you if you want. No. But I can't thank you enough, man. Thank you for coming on here and showing your story. I fucking love you. You're one of the best friends I got. Trust you with everything. I'm excited to be working with you now.
Yeah, man.
I don't know. Do you have anything personally you're doing or business-wise that you're doing that you'd like to plug? No?
No. I mean,
your Snapchat, TikTok handle?
No. I believe deeply in what we're building and doing at Heartwood Recovery. I feel very confident in what our team is doing to help men achieve success in their life and long-term recovery. But other than that, I mean, just you touched on it earlier, but if anybody needs help in any way, whether that be treatment or just somebody to talk to, I'm always open to that.
Right. Dude, and I stand behind that. I watch the work you guys do there. You know what I mean? I've come on in a little bit of a capacity there and to be able to help out. But, you know, I've been to all the area treatment centers and stuff like that. Some better than others, obviously. But I stand behind the work you guys do there and the team you guys got top to bottom. Love it.
Appreciate that.
So one thing we like to do towards the end of the podcast, this is the I Am Redemption.